What secret was revealed when cleaning out the home of a deceased family member? My 97-year-old uncle had a very decent pot stash and pipe collection. That my father committed suicide and did not die of a heart attack. That he was a cop under investigation for theft and took the quick way out. Grandpa did drawings of the faces of the people he killed in WW2. Nobody knows why, but my grandma said he had a lot of guilt over the things he saw, so my guess is he didn't want to forget them or didn't feel like he should be allowed to forget them. A diary with only a few entries from my uncle who lived alone. One of the entries was about how sad he was to have never met anyone or had children and how lonely he was. Broke my heart. My nan had about a platoon's worth of American servicemen's photos tucked away. That my dad hid money all over the house. Not huge amounts, mind you, but $60 here, $120 there. Felt like a bit of a scavenger hunt when we were cleaning out his stuff. He was always a bit of a sneakily generous guy. Always gave me and my brothers a secret handshake with money tucked in his palm when we'd go back to school after a weekend home, etc. So wouldn't be surprised if he'd done it intentionally. Made us smile every time we found some. I think the final total was somewhere around $800. After my grandfather died, I asked my dad to quietly go through his dad's bedroom while I took my grandmother out to lunch. I explained that Granddad might have racy magazines about. That would be upsetting to Grandma if she found them. So just be a good son and save your mom from that. When we got back, my dad was nearly hysterical, half laughing, half barfing, and pulled me into the garage to debrief. Apparently, my grandfather was exactly the devout Catholic that he had appeared to be. And what my poor father had found in the bedside table was a stack of cheesecake pictures of his own mother. Found my grandparents' wedding certificate, which didn't match the date everyone else had. Their original date was 9 months before my aunt was born. The certificate was dated about 5 months before she was born. Not a family member, but a client. I help senior citizens downsize and sometimes they are hoarders. When cleaning out a client's hoarder home, we were first searching for cash, family photos and jewelry. This was a very affluent family and a lovely from the outside home. We discovered she and her late husband had a secret hobby. We found a ton of homemade porn from the 1950s and 1960s. Our client, now in her 90s, was the star of most photos. We're talking really graphic stuff with multiple men and women. She was gorgeous and very photogenic. Needless to say, we did not put those pics in the pile of keepers to give to her children and grandchildren. Grandmother climbed Mount Rainier in WA in a woolen skirt, summit and all. Found Grandma's autobiography, her first child, which we knew was an oopsies and led to her getting married, was a product of rape. She married her rapist and had more kids with him. I, as a joke once, made thong underwear on a merch website with my cat's face on them and my signature. The description just said, "So you can wear my pussy on your pussy." My friends found this hilarious and bought them up, of course. I got numerous Snapchats of thong photos for a while. We forgot about this for years. My best friend passed away in a motorcycle accident last year. His family called me while cleaning out his house a month or so after. They were wondering why they found thongs with my signature in his closet. I never thought I'd have to explain that one. Luckily, they thought it was incredible and we all shared some good laughs. Cold sweat smile. Cleaning out my grandparents' house after they passed away, we found a booklet on sexual anatomy, a penis eraser, A penis that my grandma had crocheted, and there were walnuts in the nutsack. And a drawing my grandpa did of my grandma wearing nothing but a feather boa. They found out my grandmother lied about her age to her second husband. Keep in mind this was the 1940s. Her age on her marriage license was 6 years younger than she actually was. I found a hidden .38 revolver in my late stepfather's bookshelf. Every bullet in the gun had the name Steve written in Sharpie. No one had ever heard of him. Birth certificate for a half-brother I didn't know anything about. ETA. His name is Daniel. I tear up occasionally when I hear Elton John sing Daniel. He is 14 years older than me. He was adopted by his stepfather when he was 3. My dad only saw him a couple of times. He was married to his mom, but they divorced after a few months and she took Daniel and moved across the country. He knows he has one half sibs but doesn't want to meet us or have a relationship. The weirdest thing about it, he is a carbon copy of my dad. Bonus surprises. I never knew my dad was married before my mom. I also found out that my mom was married before my dad too. No kids. Apparently her first hubs used my mom as his beard. He married her and 3 days later moved to Hollywood with his best friend to become a star. They got divorced on their 1-year wedding anniversary. Food from 1970. They died in 2006. My parents were getting back together. Dad died at 50 of a heart attack. Mom was devastated. Her health declined rapidly and she died at 49 3 months later. I cleaned out both their homes and found calls, texts, and love letters. They wanted to be together again but didn't want to put their kids and grandkids through a reconciliation until they were confident it'd work out. I knew she'd be devastated. They had been together almost 30 years. But they were 2 years divorced and casually seeing other people. They seemed to be thriving apart. So it was a shock when the grief was so strong that it took all the life out of her. She died of cancer. But the doctor also diagnosed her with failure to thrive brought on by the loss of my dad, and said that it may have been possible for her to live longer and even receive treatment if the failure to thrive hadn't taken everything she was before her cancer diagnosis. The only thing worse than losing my dad was watching my mom live without him. So at the end of the day, I'm grateful she didn't live without him for long. She never would have had peace here again. She found her peace with him on the other side. My parents got divorced almost 50 years ago. When I cleaned out my old man's place 30 years later, he had a written-out accusation that my mother cheated. I know who he referred to, and honestly, he was probably right. My old man was pretty hard to take most of the time, so the divorce wasn't a shock. My mother cheating doesn't seem much of a surprise. But that he kept this in writing was, I'm guessing it was his last blame volley from beyond. My mom learned her dad has another family. We met them a few years ago.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.